Welcome to the IFR podcast. I'm your host, Zayd Haji, a student, researcher, and observer of the economy. Here we don't just read numbers, we uncover the stories behind them, the hidden patterns, the realities that often go unnoticed. A quick note before we begin. I am not a policymaker or an expert issuing advice. My goal is to explore, analyze, and share insights in a way that informs without offending, because the truth is for observation, reflection, and discussion. Today we dive deep into India's GST 2.0 reforms, explore what's changed for households, businesses, and the middle class, and challenge the assumptions you may hold about fairness, wealth, and opportunity. What if everything you believed about money, fairness, and your place in society was incomplete? The so-called GST 2.0 reforms of 2025 may have reduced the immediate bite of taxation, but for a nation like India, where salaries remain meager, the system continues to function like a slow bleed. Income tax was already insufficient to fund state expenditure, and the layering of multiple taxes culminating in GST since 2017 has only transferred the burden onto the very class that sustains the economy, the middle class. Even with minor relief under GST 2.0, the reality remains that if a middle-income earner's disposable income shrinks under taxation, they inevitably spend less, choking consumption in a country that thrives on middle-class demand. When India launched the Goods and Services Tax in 2017, it promised to unify the nation under a single tax, end cascading levies, and make everyday life fairer. 8 years later, the GST 2.0 reforms of 2025 have simplified the structure, cutting rates and offering relief. But the story is not as seamless as it appears. Take daily essentials. Soaps, toothpaste, and hair oils, once taxed at 18%, now attract just 5%, a clear benefit to households. Packaged foods like biscuits and cereals, previously taxed at 12-18%, are also reduced to 5%, easing the monthly grocery burden. Unbranded food grains, milk, and fresh vegetables remain at 0%, showing consistency. Household items such as utensils and bicycles see a drop from 12% to 5%. Even large appliances, air conditioners, and washing machines fall from 28% to 18%, along with cement, helping middle-class homes afford upgrades. Automobiles are another mixed story. Small cars, petrol under 1,200 cubic centimeters, diesel under 1,500 cubic centimeters, move from 28% plus cess to 18%, and motorcycles up to 350 cubic centimeters follow the same path. Yet high-end cars and luxury vehicles jump to 40%, illustrating the government's attempt to tax the affluent while providing relief to common buyers. Services too have been realigned. Hotel accommodation up to 7,500 per night is cut from 12 to 18% to 5%. While restaurant services are standardized at 5%. Telecom and financial services remain unchanged at 18%. But here is the contradiction. Sin and luxury goods including tobacco, pan masala, and aerated drinks have risen from 28% plus cess to a whopping 40%. On paper, the reform appears balanced, with essentials becoming cheaper and sin goods costlier. In reality, however, many middle-class families feel little relief. Stagnant salaries, rising loans, and the cost of living continue to squeeze disposable income. While a television, cement, or small car is cheaper in percentage terms for someone earning 3 lakh to 3.5 lakh rupees per year, the reduction in GST does not translate into meaningful affordability. GST 2.0 simplifies numbers and rates but does not address the structural inequality embedded in wages, household debt, and purchasing power. The benefits are visible, yes, but superficial for the majority. Lower taxes on essentials and household items may slightly ease expenses, but the broader economic burden, stagnant fresher salaries, rising debt, and high costs for healthcare and education remains largely untouched. In short, the reform is a double-edged sword. For the affluent, it maintains or even increases their financial burden on luxury consumption, while for the common citizen, the relief exists mostly in theory, not in transformative practice. The percentages, cuts from 28 to 18, 18 to 5, 12 to 5, look impressive in charts, but the lived reality tells a story of limited relief and persistent struggle. The narrative of GST 2.0 is one of statistical victory yet everyday ambivalence, a reform that, while simplifying taxes, cannot by itself balance inequities that start with stagnant income and end with systemic financial stress. A telling example is Infosys. The typical entry-level salary for freshers has barely moved in a decade, stagnating at around 3.5 lakh per annum in 2011-2014, and still the same in 2024-2025, while senior-level pay has surged. Only through specialized programs such as the Infosys Power Program do select candidates secure higher packages ranging up to 9 lakh. But for the vast majority, wages remain stagnant even as costs rise. This widening disparity between stagnant fresher salaries and soaring executive pay reflects a broader national crisis. Reforms that do not address wage justice will always feel like taxation sucking the blood of ordinary citizens, only slower under GST 2.0. If GST is to be justified, then the state must equally ensure fair wages, raising the minimum fresher salary to at least 40,000 rupees per month to preserve the dignity, secure livelihoods, and keep India's middle-class driven economy alive. Countries like the UAE and Saudi Arabia follow a no-income tax model, allowing residents to retain most of their earnings. This system can encourage higher disposable income and potentially stimulate consumption. However, in contrast, in India, where average income levels are comparatively lower, people tend to spend less because they do not earn high incomes. This restrained spending has several economic implications. Slowed economic growth. Reduced consumer expenditure decreases demand for products and services, slowing overall economic activity. Job losses. Businesses facing lower demand may cut staff to reduce costs, increasing unemployment. Lower wages. Decreased revenue from lower spending can lead companies to limit wage growth or reduce investments. Deflationary pressures. Less money circulating in the economy can contribute to falling prices, deflation, further slowing economic momentum. Data from the Government of India, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, CPI, July 2025 indicates very modest inflation, 1.55% combined CPI, with rural and urban food inflation being negative, minus 1.76% combined CFPI. This reflects the ongoing challenge of low consumer spending amid limited income growth. Policy insight. While zero-income tax models like the UAE and Saudi Arabia help boost disposable income and consumer spending in India, enhancing income levels and purchasing power is crucial for stimulating demand, supporting businesses, and fostering sustainable economic growth. What if the rules you've been told to follow are keeping you from real freedom? Stay with me, because the truth about wealth, justice, and your future is about to be revealed, and it will challenge everything you think you know. The numbers look glorious on paper. India celebrates rising gross domestic product, GDP, record tax collections, and digital transformation of its taxation system. Yet behind this optimism lies an unsettling contradiction. The government of India's debt is swelling at an alarming pace. By March 2026, the country's outstanding debt is projected to touch 196.78 lakh crore rupees compared to 181.74 lakh crore rupees just a year earlier. Internal debt alone will climb from 175.55 lakh crore rupees in March 2025 to 191.4 lakh crore rupees in March 2026, while external liabilities will rise from 6.18 lakh crore rupees to 6.63 lakh crore rupees. Even after adjusting for exchange rates, borrowings, and cash balances, the figure stands at an overwhelming 200.16 lakh crore rupees. What makes this troubling is not just the size of the debt, but its composition. The government borrows heavily through open market loans, bonds, treasury bills, and securities issued even to state governments, commercial banks, and global financial institutions. It is also accountable to repay deposits from provident funds, small savings, nationalized banks, oil marketing and fertilizer companies, the Food Corporation of India, and even civil deposits. These layers of liabilities create a massive burden stretching across almost every sector of the economy. Critically, while assets are shown on paper in the asset register, they are recorded only at book value, ignoring the depreciation or appreciation in real market terms. This raises an uncomfortable question. Are the assets truly keeping pace with the exploding liabilities? Or is the government merely painting a balanced picture? While the weight of invisible debt accumulates, the paradox deepens when we look at taxation. India proudly observes Income Tax Day, tracing its evolution from Sir James Wilson's introduction in 1860 to today's faceless, digital, and data-driven system. Income tax collections have surged, with over 27.02 lakh crore rupees collected in 2024 to 25, nearly doubling in just 5 years. Yet this remarkable achievement has not slowed the debt spiral. The more revenue the state gathers, the more it borrows. The reforms are hailed as citizen-centric, promoting fairness and compliance through digital nudges and faceless assessments. Tax slabs have been relaxed for the middle class, digital transparency has improved compliance, and the taxpayer base is expanding. At the same time, India boasts of being the fastest-growing major economy, with GDP growth at 7.8% in Q1 of 2025 to 26 and the promise of becoming a $7 trillion economy by 2030. And yet, this dazzling narrative hides a reality. National prosperity is being built on a mountain of debt. Every claim of progress, from capital expenditure to foreign investments, is shadowed by the question of sustainability. If debt continues to balloon while assets lag behind and liabilities multiply across institutions, will growth remain real or only statistical? The celebration of growth, taxation reforms, and employment gains cannot erase the deeper truth. India's economic story is being written on borrowed capital, and when growth is funded not by genuine surpluses but by ever-expanding liabilities, the line between sustainable progress and fragile illusion grows dangerously thin. Imagine a world where fairness isn't a dream but a system you can access. For the next few minutes, we will uncover hidden truths that expose the gaps in society and show a path that few ever notice. On the night of July 1st, 2017, India stepped into a new era with the launch of the Goods and Services Tax (GST), a reform that promised to end the confusion of countless state and central levies and bring the nation under one unified tax system. It was not just about numbers and percentages. It was about creating a common market, ending the cascading of taxes, and ensuring fairness for every citizen. Over the next 8 years, GST evolved steadily, rates were rationalized, compliance became digital, and transparency grew stronger. Yet, the call for greater simplicity and relief never ceased. These reforms rest on 7 pillars: simplification, fairness, digital ease, empowerment of small businesses, stronger state revenues, consumer relief, and sustainable growth. The shift is striking. Luxury and sin goods such as pan masala, tobacco, aerated drinks, high-end cars, yachts, and private aircraft will now attract a 40% levy to ensure equity, while essential goods and services for daily life are brought under lower slabs. Everyday households will feel the difference as products like soaps and shampoos, toothbrushes, toothpaste, tableware, and bicycles move to 5%. Packaged foods such as namkeens, bhujia, sauces, pasta, chocolates, coffee, and preserved meat that once carried 12 to 18% now rest at just 5%. Larger televisions, air conditioners, and dishwashers will fall from 28 to 18%, a dual win that strengthens affordability and boosts India's electronics manufacturing. The relief flows into the housing and infrastructure sectors, with cement moving from 28% to 18%, while marble, granite blocks, and sand lime bricks drop to 5%, directly cutting the cost of homes and spurring job creation. Automobiles too have been realigned. Small cars and two-wheelers up to 350 cubic centimeters, buses, trucks, three-wheelers, and auto parts are all now at 18% instead of 28%. Agriculture, the backbone of India, gains renewed strength. Tractors shift from 12 to 5%, with tires and parts at 5% instead of 18%, while harvesters, sprinklers, and even biopesticides fall from 12 to 5%, reducing costs for farmers and promoting sustainable practices. The service sector feels lighter as hotel stays up to 7,500 rupee day drop to 5%, and gyms, salons, barbers, and yoga services too move from 18 to 5%, offering citizens better access to health and wellness. Toys, sports goods, textiles, and handicrafts see sweeping cuts that will protect artisan livelihoods, boost rural economies, and make Indian products more competitive globally. Education becomes more affordable with exercise books, erasers, pencils, crayons, and sharpeners moving to 0%, while geometry boxes and school supplies now stand at 5%. Healthcare finds new hope as 33 life-saving drugs and diagnostic kits become tax-free. Other medicines including Ayurveda, Unani, and homeopathy are reduced to 5%. Spectacles and corrective goggles fall from 28 to 5%, and medical oxygen, thermometers, and surgical instruments move to 5%. Even life and health insurance premiums, including floater plans and senior citizen policies, are exempt, supporting the government's vision of mission insurance for all by 2047. These changes are not random adjustments, but the weaving of a powerful cycle. Lower prices create higher demand. Higher demand expands the tax base. A larger tax base builds stronger revenues, and stronger revenues fuel sustainable growth. This is GST transformed from a tax system into a catalyst for inclusive prosperity. It was not always so. Before GST, India's tax system was a fragmented maze, with different states following their own levies, overlapping taxes, weak credits, and double taxation that burdened both businesses and citizens. The 101st Constitutional Amendment Act of 2016 finally paved the way for a unified system, and the midnight of July 1st, 2017 marked a turning point in history. Today, with these sweeping reforms, India takes that vision to its next stage, ensuring that GST is not just simplified and transparent, but deeply citizen-centric and business-friendly. On September 22, 2025, as these changes take effect, India steps once again into a defining chapter of its economic journey, where the tax system is no longer seen as a burden, but as a bridge to growth, fairness, and opportunity for all. Are you ready to see the system as it really is? Stay tuned, because what you are about to hear will challenge your assumptions, stir your conscience, and reveal a principle that can transform lives. Imagine standing at the edge of a great change, where the rules that quietly shape the price of every item you buy and every service you use are about to shift. That is what the revised Goods and Services Tax (GST) rates effective from September 22, 2025 represent. GST, the single indirect tax that replaced excise duty, value-added tax, and service tax in 2017, has always been about building one market for one nation. Now its new chapter begins with clarity, simplification, and relief. The GST Council's decisions are designed to remove confusion, correct anomalies, and ensure smoother compliance. Registration rules remain unchanged, but rates across essentials, services, and sectors have been rationalized. Everyday questions naturally arise. What if you supplied goods before September 22nd but invoiced later? What if you took advances earlier? The answer lies in the time of supply provisions under Section 14 of the Central Goods and Services Tax Act, which carefully decide which rate applies. Similarly, stocks held on September 21st will still attract new rates if sold later, and input tax credit remains protected, ensuring businesses do not lose what they have already paid. This is not merely about tax percentages. It is about transforming GST into a framework that ordinary people can understand, businesses can trust, and the economy can grow upon. On September 22, 2025, as the new rates come alive, GST will stand less as a maze of rules and more as a bridge, connecting fairness with growth, simplicity with strength, and everyday life with the larger story of India's progress. Still, the impact for consumers could not be ignored. From Navratri to Diwali, households would feel the difference in their pockets. The biggest relief came in health and life insurance. 18% GST on premiums was abolished after 8 years of debate. In the financial year 2024 alone, the government had collected over 16,000 crore rupees in GST on these premiums. Most people never question what they are told about fairness and wealth. In the next few minutes, we will uncover truths that will make you rethink everything and ignite a change that starts with you. Optimistic forecasts followed. Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri suggested GST reforms could lift India's gross domestic product (GDP) by 0.8%. State Bank of India's research went further, estimating that combined with earlier income tax reforms, the impact could touch 5 lakh crore rupees, pushing GDP growth to as high as 7% by the financial year 2027. Yet beneath the celebration lay a harder truth. The middle class was weighed down by stagnant salaries, rising loans, and mounting credit card debt. In just 8 years, gold loans, once a last resort in emergencies, had risen from 25,000 crore rupees to nearly 3 lakh crore rupees as families pledged their final safety net just to meet everyday expenses. Reports revealed that 100 crore Indians had no disposable income to spend, regardless of tax cuts. Only 13 to 14 crore citizens could actually take advantage of reduced prices. This is why many economists describe GST 2.0 as a stress test for India's economy. If consumption rises during this festive season, it would signal resilience. If not, it would expose the scale of the financial strain facing households. The reforms may have come 8 years late, but they have arrived. Their success or failure will reveal the strength of India's economic pulse. For now, one truth remains certain. While people may or may not rush to buy new cars, televisions, or smartphones, they must not ignore the newfound affordability of insurance. In a time of uncertainty, safeguarding health and securing family futures is no longer optional. It is financial hygiene. The GST relief has made it accessible. The responsibility now lies with every household to protect themselves first before joining the rush of festive shopping. What if everything you've been told about fairness, wealth, and your place in society is only part of the story? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes we will reveal truths that challenge the system, expose hidden injustices, and show a single principle that could transform not just your life but the future of millions. Miss this and you risk missing the shift that could define a generation. In the financial year 2025, India faced a paradox. Inflation appeared calm, yet the everyday reality of millions told a different story. The consumer price index stood at 1.55%, and food inflation had actually dipped to minus 1.76%, one of the lowest year-on-year rates in recent memory. Rural areas recorded 1.18% CPI, urban areas 2.05%, while staples like pulses, onions, and cereals became slightly more affordable. Yet essentials such as oils, fruits, and coconut products surged, and health, education, and housing costs continued to rise, keeping households on edge. At the same time, GST 2.0 promised relief. Tax rates were tweaked, yet the average Indian, especially the middle class, the backbone of the economy, remained under pressure. Low wages combined with layered taxation forced families to spend cautiously, weakening demand and slowing growth. Freshers entering private companies earn stagnant salaries. At Infosys, annual pay for most remains in the 3 lakh to 3.5 rupees range even after a decade, while senior executives' compensation skyrockets. The result is a widening gap between the elite and entry-level workers. Economic consequences ripple across society. Reduced consumer spending slows business expansion, lowers wages, threatens employment, and even risks deflation. Contrast this with nations like the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, where no personal income tax allows residents to retain nearly all of their earnings, spurring consumption, investment, and growth. India's system, despite moderate inflation, constrains households' disposable income, leaving growth fragile. From an Islamic perspective, this imbalance is more than economic, it is moral. Islam teaches that wealth must circulate justly. Zakat, a mandated 2.5% redistribution of wealth, ensures fairness and eradicates poverty when practiced sincerely. The Quran states, and establish prayer and give zakat, and whatever good you put forward for yourselves, you will find it with Allah. Indeed, Allah of what you do is seeing. Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 110. Dr. Zakir Naik emphasizes that if every capable and rich person sincerely paid their 2.5% zakat, the entire nation's poverty could be eradicated. A single simple act transforming society. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, warned that those who collect unjust taxes cannot enter paradise. Sunan Abu Dawood, Hadith 2937, and instructed, give the worker his wages before his sweat dries. Sunan Ibn Majah, Hadith 2443. The contrast is stark. Honest wealth distribution empowers societies, while arbitrary taxes and stagnant wages strain the people and perpetuate inequality. In conclusion, the GST 2.0 reforms of 2025 mark a decisive shift towards simplicity, fairness, and affordability. By adopting a two-slab structure of 5% and 18%, essential household items like soaps, toothpaste, and Indian breads are now more accessible, while life-saving drugs and medicines have been reduced to nil or 5%, easing the burden on healthcare. Middle-class relief extends to two-wheelers, small cars, televisions, air conditioners, and cement, now taxed at 18% instead of 28%, making daily life and housing more affordable. Farmers benefit as machinery and irrigation equipment drop from 12% to 5%, lowering agricultural costs. Meanwhile, luxury goods, tobacco, pan masala, and aerated drinks are taxed at 40%, ensuring equity in the system. Together, these reforms aim not just to rationalize taxation, but to empower citizens, strengthen the middle class, and build a fairer, more sustainable economy. In essence, GST 2.0 and moderate inflation are insufficient alone. True economic prosperity depends on fairness, ethical taxation, and policies that raise disposable incomes, minimum wages that reflect the cost of living, targeted subsidies, and investment-driven job creation. When combined with the timeless Islamic principles of justice, moderation, and zakah, the nation can not only stabilize prices but also uplift its middle class, eradicate poverty, and ensure sustainable growth. Without such alignment, low inflation remains a hollow victory, masking the structural inequality that still burdens the people. You've been listening to the IFR podcast with me. Today we explored the realities and contradictions of India's GST 2.0 reforms, beyond the numbers, beyond the headlines. If you stayed until the end, you now hold an edge most overlook, the ability to see beyond percentages and charts and understand the deeper story shaping the economy and society. Until next time, keep questioning, keep observing, and keep seeking the truth, because understanding is the first step toward real change.